You know, the world of fan art is packed with these incredible crossovers. But let's be honest, most of them follow a pretty simple logic. You see a character, you find another character that looks kind of like them, and you mash them together. It's fun, it works. But what happens when an artist looks at that logic and decides, nah, that's boring, and just tosses the rulebook right out the window?
So when you're mashing up universes like Pokémon and Marvel, there are some unwritten rules, right? You go for the easy wins, the obvious connections. Charizard is the Human Torch? Yep. Pikachu is Thor? Of course. It's a language we all just kind of get, you know? Fire with fire, lightning with lightning. It's simple.
All right, take the Hulk, for example. He's a giant green rage machine. The obvious Pokemon pairing is a total powerhouse like Machamp or maybe Tyranitar. It makes sense. But this artist we're looking at today, yeah, they took a very different road. They looked at the Hulk and somehow saw a graceful, elegant ice type. And honestly, that's where the fun really starts.
So here you have it, Glaceon, the fresh snow Pokemon, as the Incredible Hulk. And look, my first reaction, and probably yours too, is just, nope, that's wrong. It's a choice so weird it almost feels like a mistake. But what if we're wrong? What if there's some kind of genius hiding in there? That's exactly what we're going to find out.
Okay, so that's the big question here, right? Are these pairings just totally random and make no sense? Or are we just not seeing the bigger picture, a deeper logic that's hiding just beneath the surface? Okay, the secret to cracking this whole thing is a concept we're calling a systems crossover. This artist isn't matching characters based on what they look like. No. They're matching them based on how they work. They're digging deep into the game mechanics, the raw numbers, the weird little Pokédex entries, and finding connections that, let's be honest, most of us would completely miss.
All right, let's dive into our first case study. And this one seems physically impossible.
So, on the one side, you've got the obvious move. Wolverine's all about his claws, his ferocity, so you'd pick a Pokemon like Zangoose, which has these massive claws. Easy, right? Makes perfect sense. And then, this artist went with Eevee. Small, cute, and definitely not known for having an adamantium skeleton. So, what gives?
See, the clue isn't what Eevee looks like. It's all about its biology. If you check the Pokédex, Eevee is famous for one thing above all: its unstable and irregularly shaped genetic structure. Its DNA is so flexible that it can change and adapt to survive in pretty much any environment. Does that ring a bell at all?
And that's the whole genius of it. It's not about the claws. Eevee's irregular genetic code is pretty much a perfect stand-in for Wolverine's mutant X gene. Its whole deal of adapting to survive is a dead ringer for Logan's survivalist history. And it gets better. Even the game mechanics line up. There's a Z move called Extreme Evo Boost that gives Eevee this huge all-out stat boost, which is basically a game mechanic version of Wolverine's Berserker Rage. So it's not a visual match, it's a genetic one. Wild, right?
Okay, so we've seen the artist dive deep into the lore, but it goes even deeper than that. Sometimes the connection isn't in the story, it's hidden in cold, hard numbers. We're talking about the game's stats.
And this brings us to our next head-scratcher. Vaporeon, the bubble jet Pokemon, dressed up as the Thing. One is a creature that can literally melt into water, and the other is a guy made of solid orange rock. I mean, you literally can't get more opposite than that.
I mean, come on, that's his whole deal, isn't it? He's the muscle, the tough one, the rock of the team, literally. So why on earth would you pick a Pokemon that's basically a puddle?
And this is where we get to the next layer of this artist's brilliant thinking. See, the Thing's job on the Fantastic Four isn't just to be the hard one. He's the tank. He's the guy who soaks up all the damage for the team. Well, in the world of competitive Pokemon, Vaporeon is a legendary tank, all because of its massive base HP stat of 130. It's built to take a beating. So the artist isn't matching what they're made of, they're matching their job, their function on the team.
Okay, so if you thought Vaporeon was a bit of a stretch, just brace yourself. Because now we have what might be the most out-there choice of the whole set. Iron Man, the literal symbol of metal and technology, is being played by Leafeon, a Pokemon that is, for all intents and purposes, a plant. How does that even begin to make sense?
You guessed it. The answer is in the numbers. You got to ignore the fact that it's a grass type for a second and just look at its stats. Leafeon has the highest physical defense stat of any evolution, a massive 130. That stat is the iron in Iron Man. The artist is saying that Leafeon's ability to just shrug off physical hits is the gameplay version of Tony Stark's armor. It's basically a walking fortress.
And that magic number, 130, brings us all the way back to where we started, Glaceon as the Hulk. Why? Well, what do you know, Glaceon has a sky-high special attack stat of 130. In competitive Pokémon, that makes it what players call a wall breaker. Its entire job is to show up and just vaporize defensive opponents with pure, overwhelming power. It is, for all intents and purposes, the game's version of Hulk Smash.
But wait, it's not always about in-game lore or stats. Sometimes the connection isn't in the game at all. Sometimes the joke is on us, in the real world. This next one is just a fantastic meta joke.
Okay, at first glance, this one just feels wrong on every level. You've got Pikachu, the cute, cuddly face of a massive global brand, dressed as Deadpool, the R-rated, fourth wall-breaking mercenary. You just can't get two characters who are more polar opposites. So, what's the deal?
And here's the punchline. It's not about lore, it's not about stats. It's all about one guy, Ryan Reynolds. The actor who, of course, famously voiced both Deadpool and Detective Pikachu. This became a huge joke online in both fandoms, and the artist is just leaning right into it. It's a super clever inside joke that only works if you're following the movies in the real world.
Okay, so after all that, what does it all mean? Let's zoom out for a second and look at the big idea that really holds all of these bizarre, amazing choices together.
You know, the best way to wrap your head around this whole project comes from a kind of unexpected place. The world of trading cards, and specifically the idea of a misprint.
So in card collecting, when a card gets printed wrong, like it's off-center or the color's weird, some people might see it as just a mistake. But for real collectors, that flaw is what makes it special. It makes it unique and way more valuable. And that is exactly what this fan art is. These are creative misprints. The thing that seems wrong on the surface is actually an invitation to look closer and find a way more interesting meaning than a perfect choice ever could.
And really, that's the big takeaway from all of this. This is more than just putting Pokémon in costumes. What we're looking at is a really smart technical commentary on what actually makes these characters tick. The artist is arguing that a character's real identity isn't just in how they look, but in how they work, their stats, their biology, their role. They're choosing to honor that internal truth over, just what they look like on a lunchbox.
So, this all leaves us with a pretty cool question to think about. What other misprints have you come across? In movies, games, whatever you're into? What are those things that just seemed off at first, but when you looked a little closer, you realized there was some serious genius hiding right under the surface?